What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Doodads Podcast. We're here tonight, still Brandon and still Carl. We're on episode 10. 10. For your average person, that is the equivalent of the fingers and the toes. 10. We've made it to the double digits, and we couldn't have done it without all 213 of you loyal. 214. Sorry, loyal subscribers. If you're not one of those 214 people, either go to therapy or do the easy thing. Just like and subscribe. Become one of those people. Become one of the followers. Check out this thing that we got going on. It's been really cool. It's been a trip, a journey, an experience, and it's just going to continue to progress if we have anything to say or do about it. And while we're at it, in case, if you're just listening, I'm sorry, but if you're watching, you may have noticed this sweet piece of headgear on Carl's dome. You want to tell them about it real quick?
Yeah, Dad Gang Company, Dad Gang Apparel. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram. Pretty much, they've got their own site. They also do mom gear, too, if you want to check that out. But go to Dad Gang Company. They do hats, trucker hats, flat bills, beanies, scullies. Go ahead, check them out. When you're checking out, go to the promo code, put in Doodads 14721, DODADS 14721. Get you 10% off. Get you a sweet hat. Tell everybody about Doodads.
Tight. Well, I think we should go straight into this gentleman on the screen here at the end of the table. We have a guest, ladies and gentlemen, not in studio, but zooming in from an undisclosed location. So you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Jed? Let us know.
Yeah. First off, all right, well, my name is Jed Payne from Church and Other Drugs podcast. And first off,
woot,
y'all skipped straight to professional ads. Y'all got listen. Y'all are highfalutin over here, dude. This is what's up. I've been doing this for 7 years, right? So this would be my 294th episode, and I record, no editing, put on music, and put that thing out the next day. All right, that's what's going on over here. But I will say, I think the stat is if you make it past 10 episodes, you are more successful than like 95% of podcasts, because 10 is that number where people usually give up. So congratulations, fellas.
So no, wait, what you're saying is everything hinges on this episode.
It does.
Jed, you're it, man.
Now,
This is game 7.
if you quit now, you're no better than anyone else, dude.
I want to be part of the 5%.
It was funny too, because Jed, I was like, "Hey, man, like, just hit me up with like, he asked, he was like, so we're still on, right?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You want me to get you with my producer? You know, that way you can get set up all the technology and all that." I sent him Ken's number. I was like, Ray Media, you know, all that. And he was like, hold on, you're producer. We've been knowing each other almost 20 years. Like, we're realizing, but I was like, hey, look, dude, I get on here. I tell really bad dad jokes. We talk about some stuff. I don't know the first, like, you're like, oh yeah, I just filmed from my house. Well, I don't know how to do that, Jed.
Ken's been asking us to do that for 3 months, and we can't even do it on the iPhone, let alone with any form of professionalism.
Yeah, so, I mean, to just kind of, I guess, jump in it is one of the things that we were talking about, I think, early on, and we always circle back to this, is this coffee conversation that Brandon and I had, and we had this idea, and the idea was, look, most guys in the 21st century are walking around with, whether it's childhood trauma, whether it's generational stuff, whether it's, absence of a father or lackluster relationship with their father, or just, being stalemated by what I guess maybe the patriarchy says you have to be as a dad. And we wanted to kind of talk about that and kind of flip the script a little bit. try to entertain conversations like dealing with death, dealing with adoption, dealing with just how to parent, how to be a decent dad, how to, I guess, navigate. I mean, we've talked about faith. We've talked about all sorts of stuff, which we're really looking forward to hear from you and kind of your experiences with that. Because, like I said, I've known you for almost 20 years, and like I know this weaved road so there's a story,
lots of iterations.
Yeah, I don't know if you're okay with the
yeah.
Okay, so
it's out there on YouTube, bro.
So my wife, right, at the time is just kind of my little sweet honeyboo thing that we're kind of talking a little bit. We're kind of slowly, and she's like, "Hey, do you know Jed?" I was like, "Do I know Jed?" She's like, "He's in trouble. he needs help." And I was like, "I'm in this studio apartment, just me and my dog." And I was like, "Hey man, come crash at the crib." And he fought with my dog all night with a.
No, I didn't fight with your dog. I'm sleeping on the floor, and halfway through the night, your dog does a flying suplex right onto my testicles, dude. Like from the top rope, whatever 60-pound, it felt like a 60-pound animal. I'm like, detoxing, dude. Trying to sleep, and this giant dog.
I have this picture of him on my bed, and he just if you've ever seen like the poster of defeat, just like I'm slap done.
Oh, that in a good way. Defeat,
right, well, yeah, for sure. But so I have this picture, and he's always like, "I need a poster of that," and I'm like, 10 years. Give me 10 solid years, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna blow it up. But anyways, so you recently got you got remarried, but you got married, and now you got what, a 5-month-old?
No, well, so I'm not currently married, but engaged.
It's okay. I did that.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's a separate thing.
Yeah,
turns out like the government really punishes you if you get married.
Yeah.
Like if you're not, super rich, then the government really deals you a sour hand if you just get married to someone. So, but no, we're getting married next year. But yes, I have a 5-month-old daughter, both of our first, and I'm 36. Yeah. So I waited. So part of that, I'm a registered addictions counselor by trade, and I cut my teeth. Like I did my counselor in training at a residential treatment center for adolescents. So for 4 years, I pretty much saw every worst case scenario you could ever see involving kids, right? And so I was just, dude,
sounds like a nightmare.
Terrified. Number one, it ruins, when we were trying to name our daughter, like every name, it was like, nope. I remember her. She sucked. Nope. I mean, I've dealt with thousands of kids, right? But yeah, and because of my own history, right? Like my mom famously, she would always say this sentence, "Just wait till you have kids."
Oh, good.
Right? She would always say that to me. And I would always say, "I ain't never having kids, Mom, so that ain't never gonna happen," right? And yeah, I would do full of fear, chock full of fear. And it's funny, I've actually got one of my friends has started listening to my podcast, and they're listening from the beginning, and she has been sending me a text every time I talk about being afraid of, like, never having kids and being afraid of having kids. Because now, as soon as she was born, it was like, oh, well, that's gone. I mean, a lot of that stuff is, I mean, there's new fears, but all the bull, is there cursing on this program?
I don't know. Is there, Jed?
With all
Drop
the bullshit.
Drop it.
All the bullshit in my head, man, it was just vaporized, right?
Talk about that though, right? Like, cause that's the whole, like I was 39 when Ben was born, and I always wanted kids, but like I did. I mean, I got to a point where I was like, maybe I'm sterile. Like I was like wondering if
Same.
I was wondering if there was something wrong with me, but I did, like I had that initial one when I first saw him, like I was like, all right, like playtime's over. I can't swing and miss. It has to work. I can't screw around anymore. But it was so funny how, sure, did I stand over him to make sure he was breathing some nights? Of course. Did I have like you said, those normal fears? But talk about that, how, we talk about the maternal instinct. We talk about this, mom just knows. And don't get me wrong. Like I look at Courtney and I'm like, this is wild how you know some things. But like, he was born and any fear I had of being a father was gone. I was like, I was made to do this,
It seemed like it had always been that way. That was what Georgia, my partner, said too. It was like her being here. I can't really. It's like even thinking of old memories. It seems like she was there. It's just like, oh yeah, this is just how it always was. This is how it was supposed to be. Yeah, it was just like, oh yeah, this is. It was when I heard her cry when she came out that I was just like, holy shit. Like, and it was some kind of.
It wrecks
biological. Yeah, dude. Absolutely.
It's crazy. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's wild. Like, I mean, and I still, Carl talks about standing over. I still do that. So my daughter, she'll be 4 in July, and we're having a son in October.
Ooh, congrats.
So thank you. I'm sometimes I wonder whether or not I need to be medicated or therapized, or because it's gotten drastically better, but like some of the things that my brain has done. I mean, I'll just full disclosures. I mean, there were times where this is how irrational my fears got at the very beginning, especially. But like there'd be times where I'd lay up at night unable to fall asleep because I had this image playing in my head of her falling off of a skyscraper.
Dude.
I'm like, well, okay, well, when are we going to be on a skyscraper though? First of all, and like,
so this is funny when you talk about the paternal instincts. So Georgia went heavy towards the really, worried about health, worried something's going to go wrong, like the natural, like she's the perfect mother hen, right? For whatever reason, and this could go away at any time. For whatever reason, I've had this like overwhelming sense that like she's fine and she's gonna be okay. And I haven't really even like, so Georgia got COVID 3 days after she gave birth.
Solid.
Right? Wow. So that was, oh God, our friend. Anyway, that's all. Our friend gave it to her. Anyway, that's a whole story. I was a little perturbed by that,
I bet.
But so the first week, Ruthie, she had like shallow breathing, and so like we were already like waiting for her to get COVID or something. So we took her to the ER 7 days after she was born. And I was scared, but it's like maybe it's a divine gift sort of thing, but it's like it's just a weird feeling that like she's okay, like she's gonna be fine. I don't feel like she's going to be taken from me in that way.
Yeah,
I don't know. I said, this could go away tomorrow, but for right now, it's just I just have this. Like, I feel confident in my, like, protective nature, and I feel, I guess because, like, what you were talking about, Carl, like, I thought, I did not think this was going to happen. And so when it happened, I fully trusted that this was a God thing, and therefore there's not much I can do to help it or hurt it. Like in a macro sense, sure. if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of. I feel that way now, because she's my wife now, and she was my girlfriend at the time, but she got pregnant when I was about 7 months into my journey, and she was about almost or right at about a year into hers, and so it was like what do young people do when they start this journey? They typically
bring bastards into the world.
They drink energy drinks and they hump, and so
and you got that super fertility going on, the rebound fertility, I call it.
Yeah, and it was. But I feel like we've been through enough with having her for the last couple years, and then going through a miscarriage last year, and then this one.
That's what I was gonna ask.
She had a miscarriage last year, and it was a freak thing that it wasn't just like I don't know if this is wrong for me to categorize. It was like a 1 in 6,000 chance that the implantation happened in the scar tissue of her C-section from our daughter, and so it was like a wild thing that happened, and so it took a couple of months for her to shake back physically from that. And so now that she's pregnant again with our son, like it happened within weeks of the doctor giving us the okay to, do the horizontal mambo. And it was just like,
are you telling me you got freaky with a C-section scar? Is that what I'm hearing?
It wasn't intentional. It was dark.
I'm sorry. It was there.
But,
it was a softball. I had to hit it.
Funny. Nobody's ever mentioned it, but
now, Spike it, Fokker.
But it's hard not to see God. No. It's hard not to see God. Not that like I don't think it was by accident, even though it might have been a little bit by accident. Like Julia's in our life for an absolute reason, but like it was much harder to see God's hand in orchestrating all of that at that time because I didn't know how to take care of myself at that point in my life, let alone a child. And whereas now it's a little bit easier. There's less fear. We're more stable emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially. It's like this is what the first rip was like. Holy shit! What do we do now?
We went through a miscarriage first too, and that's a weird, and it's like back in the day, they would have funerals and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was like it used to be a much, not bigger, but it was a very serious thing. And I mean, not that it's not a serious thing today, but some people, it seems kind of flippant about it, but yeah, that's a weird thing. It's because it's this, especially because it's like, dude, I was, finding out. It's like I'm scared, I'm worried, and then you're like, okay, yeah, let's do this. We're gonna do this, and then that roller coaster drop off disappointment, and then having to, and then really, it's like while it relates to me, it's more, I got to be there for her.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea what that experience is like to have, I don't know what pregnancy is like, that's that whole thing. So it's like, yeah, that was so for it to happen again, like once again was like, okay, I guess this is like what's supposed to be going on and what's supposed to happen. And dude, and she's like the healthiest, like,
right.
Perfect. That's the other fear too, is like, especially like, God, dude, the internet sucks.
Yes.
This was the other thing. As soon as God, she was like 7 months pregnant, I swear, every single show that we watched, the plot of the week was like horrific pregnancy accident or like miscarriage, and it's like, oh my God, dude, we can't watch anything. But yeah, man, came out healthy, dude. She's huge, big old child.
How big was she at
She
birth?
was 23 inches and 9 pounds.
Jesus.
That is a large child.
Oh my God.
Yes, dude.
That's a large child.
Yes, sir.
There's like a certain sense of pride I hear for making
Dude,
that big old
Are
baby.
you Slavic? Are you Slavic? Are you from the Caucasus? I mean, what? Good God.
Yeah, man.
That's cool.
So, I was thinking about this because of like the history and like that I know you and consider you somebody that I know fairly well. You had this like awakening, this thing that, and it's funny the way we were talking about like the first time you saw your kid. And I remember the first time I saw Ben, and same thing, like when he cried, and that's the only, I got wrecked. I got this, and it's a feeling that I've had before, but it's like I've had glimpses of it. You know what I'm saying? I've had glimpses of what I believe to be like heaven on earth. A moment where I've had a hug with a buddy that I like really like. In that moment, I'm like, there is a transference that's happening that's more than just what I've experienced. Yeah. I love my wife, but there have been moments, and not even intimate in the bed, but where like we've just looked at each other and I've been like, this is the woman I'm gonna spend the rest of my life. When Ben cried, like I had this, and I want to know more about your faith and how, because you really are a kind of a punk rock Christian. You're this like, look, I am anti-establishment. I am like not trying to jump into the machine and subscribe to a lot of the dogma, but you're like, I have this faith that I can't argue with, that it is what it is. Like there's just not even Grand Canyon like if there's no words necessary. If you don't, I just can't even explain it to you, and then, but here you are as a dad and you're like, I still want to be P Master Jetty. I still want to be this guy that my daughter looks up to and goes, my dad's punk rock. My dad's still cool, but like I have this faith and I want her to have that in her life too, So I want to, I just kind of want to hear about that, how that evolved. And
yeah, well, it's done a couple. It was one of the reasons I was like, I think I want to experience having a kid, because so one of the things, so my faith has evolved over the years, and it was part of like the impetus of like starting this podcast. But like as a kid, I was really, so I have like obsessive compulsive tendencies, that comes with the addiction piece, and like I am absolutely batshit. I am medicated and therapized and all that. And so that part of my brain latched onto my childhood religion, and so it's the like official term is called like religious scrupulosity. The religious term is called legalism, where it's like you are afraid that if I do not do X, A, B, and C, then God will not do X, Y, and Z. Or if something bad happened to me, it's because I didn't pray enough. It's because I didn't do this. And it's like this fear transactional relationship that is like completely wrong. It's like terrible theology. It is not correct. And it took a long time for me to unlearn that, right? But I still struggle with it. And seeing the first time my daughter had a freak out, she was an infant and she was just sitting there and just kind of wailing. And I was like, that is exactly what we do. Like, we don't know. I don't know what's wrong. I just feel like something is wrong and I just need something. I need my dad. I need my mom. And I'm just wailing, right? And it finally really drove home that if there's nothing that she could ever do to make me not love her, then why do I think there is anything I could do to make God not love me? Like, God is this infinite source of love, and if I am his child, then that is an infinite love relationship. And my puny human consciousness experience of love with my daughter, if that is that strong, then how much stronger? And I just had this pastor in Minnesota that I follow on, and that's what he left me with at the end. He was like, you just need to look, because I still struggle with like guilt and like I'm not doing enough and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, you just need to look at your daughter and like understand that that's a fraction of like how much God loves you. So it's really, that part has been really cool. The part about how do I raise her to love God, to have a relationship with God, to not be afraid of God, that's the trick. I'm not even sure yet. I want to avoid, the number one things I want to avoid is any sense of like fear of hell. That's going to be gone. We're not doing that. Any sort of fear-based, eye in the sky, big brother type God that is just waiting for you to screw up so that he can, that's not going to be a thing. I guess I just have to lead by example. Like, me and Georgia both we had those conversations of like looking back, like, okay, where did we take lefts when we should have gone right? Like, what were the things that we were taught that like maybe we don't want to teach? And the problem is too, like, I don't think anybody necessarily taught me those things, but that's what I heard when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, there's some things that are unavoidable. Like, nobody said those things to me, but that's how I perceived it. So I'm really just having to have faith, right? That I am like committed to, I pray for her all the time, committed to like her being a force for good for the world, and like hopefully I can steward her well. I'm gonna screw it up though, bro. It's scary, man. So I guess I have to like I can't put too much pressure on myself. Like, I just gotta, it's a work in progress if you haven't noticed. But yeah, it's that part of it has been both cool, exciting, and very terrifying.
Yeah, so the last couple of weeks, I guess the last couple of, I don't know, 3 months or so, I've been doing, so like, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but, I grew up a certain religion and whatnot, and never really like had an experience with it, or never really felt one way or another about it. And then never really like felt like everything was pretty easy for me, I played sports and school was easy and I made friends and I never really struggled from it. Never really faced a whole lot of adversity. Never really like had this necessity for a God or a belief or a relationship until getting sober. And that's when it was like, oh wow, this is the first time I've really experienced something that is going to kill me that I can't fix myself. And so, at the beginning commenced at a simpler level and kind of just rolled with that for the first couple of years. And then my wife, when she got sober, it was through a faith-based program, and she had tried to get sober in church a couple of times, grew up the same, Catholic as I did, and kind of went a more non-denominational Christian route in that. And anyway, after going through the miscarriage last year, like both with, some years of sobriety, she like really dove hard back into that bag. And for whatever reason, that's where her pull and her tug was. And at this point, our daughter, she was 3. She had just turned 3. And I was at a point where I was like kind of at a stalemate in my journey, and some things changed as far as what my recovery looks like and the people around me and stuff. And I started to like, I'll tell people like she definitely grabbed the steering wheel and still to this day to a certain degree is like steering our family's faith. And but going to church together, and our daughter goes to the little kids thing that they have, and we read Bible stories with her. And so it's like, what's cool about it for me, as far as in the beginning, early on, we talked about it. Oh, what kind of school do we want to send her to? What are we going to do? We don't really go to church. We like have our higher power, but like, how do we transmit that to our kid who, like, God willing, doesn't have to go through what we went through to find a higher power and all this and that. And like, it's kind of just God's orchestrated it. Like, it's kind of just all happened naturally to where there hasn't been a whole lot of effort on our part, other than just life circumstances and our own personal journeys have put us in a position to now where she's beginning as a toddler to have her own experience, and it's funny now, every night when she says her prayers, she's always said, thank you for my mommy and daddy. And now she says, thank you for my mommy and daddy. And then she rolls her eyes and she goes, and Brady, which is going to be the boy's name that we're having, And so it's cool because, but I've been doing this Bible study thing, with these guys that are, one of them is like us and the rest are, earth people, not of the variety of my type, but all dads, all, Christian, all very active in their churches and stuff. And it wasn't until then, it was the timing of that, this podcast getting started, finding out we're having another kid, and when I finally started to look at God as a father the same way I am Julia's father. And it's been a pretty cool kind of thing for me, just, in hearing you talk about that. It's something
that's and like psychologically, every person's first concept of God comes from their father. So it is in a way like a pretty big responsibility that men and fathers have, like, and that's why a lot of people grow up with, because usually dad's the disciplinarian, so that's why like a lot of people grow up with this, God is there, I love him, he's protecting, but I'm also like kind of scared of him, man. He's kind of intense and he's kind of like hard to approach. And they even say like the results are in, like, it is unequivocally better to, even if you're an atheist, to raise your children with an idea of God. They will be better off morally, like as adults, if you raise them with some conception of God. So they even coach parents, like, even if you're atheist, agnostic, you need to somehow transmit this story, this metaphor of God for their moral and ethical like upbringing. And like what you're talking, that's kind of what I want for my daughter as well, is the community piece. Like, I was a youth group kid. Some of my best times in my life were that. That's really important too, that I want her to grow up with, like, nothing's guaranteed, but like safe, good community. But what's funny is that also exists in the other groups that we're a part of. So I guess it's really just important community, full stop. Like, so maybe not like go chill at the bars, but you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. But like, so do you go to church?
Right now, no. So I was with this church, and I played in the worship band. Like, I was with this church from when there was like 40 people, right? And we were just renting out buildings. They finally got like a home building, and I love them. I don't have a bad word to say about them, but they just went in a direction that I have like theologically outgrown. I'm not going to do the mega church thing anymore. I'm not going to do, I can't just hear 5 points to a better life every Sunday. It's like, at this point, I kind of want to be like taught the Bible. Like, let's do like let's dig into this. I don't want to kind of just do like motivational speaking type of church. So like, I tried. And I mean, when I go, like, that's where I go. But we're looking for a new one right now.
So do you read like Merton?
Thomas Merton?
Yeah.
No, like I have, like I couldn't. Yes.
Yeah, well, no.
I've read people that always quote him.
No, well, the reason why, so like a good Catholic, my grandmother had the 7-story mountain, which is like his actual, like, his story and his book, and my dad still had it, and so he gave it to me and was like, maybe you should check it out, read it, whatever. And I did, and because you hit something that it struck a chord with me. You talked about being a youth group kid and like having the community, having that it is, like, as you said, like, unequivocally, like, you can't argue it. Kids that have a fundamental idea of something just tend to be in they're just better shape. Because when I was 10, by the time I was 10, my faith in God and humanity was stripped from me. Like, by the time I was 10 years old, I didn't trust a single soul on this planet. And I was like, if you're real, bro, I want nothing to do with you. And that's trauma. That's stuff between me and my dad, because same, right? My dad didn't, the narrative I was always going to say was my dad didn't protect me. I never went without a meal. Yeah. I never went without a roof over my head, right? Like, I got friends today who like tell me horror stories, and I'm like, but things happen. right? Things happen, whatever. And you know, everybody's got horror stories. And like I always say, like mine are worse than yours because they're mine. Yours are worse than mine because they're yours. Like it's not a pissing contest. But by the time I was 10, I had lost that. And I went on this trajectory of like, I'm going to go find ease and comfort. I'm going to go find whatever quiets this hamster wheel in my head and this pain and whatever. And it's wild because we don't go to church. But I'm the guy who wants to read Stephen Hawking. I'm the guy who wants to read, you know, Bukowski and Dostoevsky, and I want to read Merton, and I want to read Ginsberg, and because I want to just continue to grow, and I want to read the Bible, and I want to read the Quran, and I want to study. I want to sit down and I want to hear the monks' truest philosophy and ideology of the one true self. Not because I'll even buy into it, but because what is it going to hurt for me to learn and to grow? You know, I mean, if you catch me on the right day, I am a hardcore Catholic. And if you catch me on another day, I'm probably closer to like the pipe carrier. You know, it's like I just want to know more about this thing that has continued to grow and shape and evolve my life from this point forward. So I say all that to say, to that point, so even before Ben was born with Aubrey, what's so wild is like I wanted to make sure, especially as a stepkid, because I've always hinted about, I've always talked about that. Like it's hard enough being a parent, being a step parent, dude. Like you know, again, like I say, all the responsibility with none of the credit, right? Because there's this other person that, you know, I'm trying to hold up to the highest esteem in front of her. Like, look, yeah, he's the greatest. Not that he's a bad guy, just like I don't ever want to step on that for her, you know.
Yes.
But here I am raising this kid. And what I realized is I didn't have that dialogue growing up. And that's why I'm so big on like, let's talk, like whatever's going on. Like you think something's just the funniest thing in the world. And I think it's goofy as shit, but please come tell me.
Yeah.
You know, I want you to feel which led to Carl, where do you think God is? And of course, I'm like just been waiting for this question because I'm about to just unleash this wealth of knowledge and it like hits me. And I know it hits me from a place that's much more deeper than what I think. Because it wasn't from me that I said this. You know, I can look outside of myself and go, that was deep. That was not of your, like, that wasn't of your intellect.
You didn't come up with that.
Right. And I just look at her and I'm like, where do you think God is? Because I was like, who am I, dude? Like, I just need to be here to help this kid just grow into whatever that is. And it has become so, and you talk about community, like that is so important to me. Yeah. I just want people, and it's crazy because like, no, we don't go to church, but like she's found herself when she was like 9 or 10 and she'd be like, you know, Mommy, Carl, can we say the Lord's Prayer before we go to bed? And I'm like, well, sure. Like what I am in, you know, and she like we've said, she's got a million uncles and a million aunts, and she's filled with love and people laughing. And also what she's also surrounded by, which is what I didn't experience at some churches I've been to. And I'm not pro or, you know, anti whatever. You talked about having to step away from some of the experiences I had with certain churches was there is a level of play. There is a level of picking. I mean, I don't know what fucking with your friend, you know, just that you can't do with some of these people. Yeah. You know, and like she's around some people who like we know each other's deep, dark Harrys. And so like she's a tough kid, you know, she's sure of herself. She's confident and she has something that she believes in. And I'm like, I don't know much more that I could actually give to her than the ability to be okay as her. Yeah.
Well, I think for us with, cause I'm much at this point, kind of where you're at with all, you know, like one thing I have realized over the last, I don't know.
And not to cut you off. Also, if she was like, hey, I want to go to church, I'd go.
Yeah, well, and because what you said, like I was I wasn't like tricked or trapped or coerced by any means, but it was just like what we did. Like
Right.
that's where we went on Sunday. I've talked about it before, but like if I spent the night out on Saturday after an LSU game, like I was getting picked up to go to mass, or when I was driving, I had to go meet them at mass. Or next Saturday after the tailgate, I was not spending the night at my friend's parents' house who let us drink.
Yeah.
You know, like that wasn't the deal. And but like. So the church that we go to, one thing I have realized over the last few months is that the 5 points kind of that you talk about, you know, and I've the hardest thing for me, the biggest like prejudice that I find myself having, the biggest barrier that it's started to be chipped away, but it's still there, is the music and it's jam up music. It's good music. The band is good, but it's the theatrics of the praise and worship that I'm like,
dude,
y'all lying, right? Y'all
and
can't,
I was
you
all
know,
the
like.
worst. That's
But when you know what's really funny, before we started recording, we're talking about Sleep Token. What hit me one day, I was standing there, and you know, like the drummer's a beast, you know, and the chicks and the guys that sing are awesome. Musically, it's great. And I have zero musical talent, but I have a pretty good taste in music, I'd like to say. And I was like looking around, and I was like, man, all these people with their hands up and all this bullshit. And it hit me. I was like, last Wednesday, you were in Dallas with your hands up at a Sleep Token concert. What's the difference between you being there doing that and them being here doing this? There's not a single bit of difference. It's just that you're too scared to actually experience this. And I'm not. I may never be that guy. But I tell you what, my hands have slowly went from being folded to kind of down at my side, maybe patting my leg and tapping my foot now and then. But you know, it's also cool that all of, and this hit me recently too, all of the things, the 3 points, the 5 points to go out and practice or what, these are all things that y'all taught me to do over 5 years ago that now, and I'm super glad that my experience has been in the order that it's been, because 5-6 years ago, had I been there first and they said go out, and I'd be like, y'all are nuts. How I'm supposed to like just believe all this stuff? But we have a friend who always says the difference between where we're at and church will tell you believe and then you can do all of these things, whereas this fellowship of people will tell you do all of these things and then you'll believe. And so that's been my experience with it, you know. And I don't know, it's go ahead.
Yeah, I got to touch on the word. So that was part of the big thing was, so I was the drummer in the worship team, and dude, I was such a I couldn't help it though. I was such a contrarian. Dude, I suggested, and they looked at me like I was nuts. I was like, how about we set up the band behind curtains? So like they don't even see us. Yeah. And it's just, there's just like a cross there. Like, how about we do that? And they're like, what? What are you talking about?
Then what would be our purpose?
Yeah, and it's but this is also. So I would be playing drums, and I would look out, and I would see people having a genuine spiritual experience, and I got to be a part of that. And that's when I had to be like, shut up, dude. Yeah. Like, use this as an act of worship, and like you are offering, you know, your services, and people, you know, just because you are in this mindset doesn't mean other people aren't, right? But then eventually it just, and it could have been like some Holy Spirit stuff, like just saying like, dude, you can't, I mean, the Bible talks about like first you need milk and then eventually you need solid food. It's like, maybe it was just time for me to move on from that. And I just couldn't. And so, some of it, you know, a lot of the, like, I'm feeling a pull towards like like going back to like just straight up hymns that have been sung for thousands of years, and not these songs that if you replace Jesus with like Brad, it's just a love song, right? Or it's just a song about you.
Stop talking about Hillsong like that, bro.
Funny, man.
Dude, don't get me started on that multi-billion-dollar industry. But don't let, like, look, if it works for you, dude, then awesome. Like, I'm not trying to, I don't want to be that person that dissuades and just complains. And that's kind of like with my, like, I have found there are my people that, you know, there's like just this chunk of people that are kind of in the same place, and we've all found each other on the internet. So it's one of those things I wish I had. I wish I had that locally, but Southern Louisiana, the pickings are slim, right?
Yeah.
You've kind of got. There are, and it's like I would find the people at my church where, like, usually I would try to find the person that, like, I could hear him, like, say a cuss word, and I'd be like, "Hey, what's up, like, what's up, man?"
I look at people's shoes, and we go to a very casual church, and I mean, there are definitely people that come out in they Sunday best, but like I'm looking at, I'm like, that dude's got some Jordans on, or he's got a pair of Dunks on, or he's wearing Vans. Like, maybe we could be friends, but I'm not really at the point of making friends there yet.
I think, well, and you talk about, so we have two friends, and look, the wife stood in our wedding. I've known her for a number of years. She's a prominent member of the community out here. Very active, very helpful, very service oriented, but she has always been, heavy on the Christ, and like which is cool. Like, that's the whole, like, in that again, like, I'm the same way. I don't mean to sound contrarian. I don't mean to sound like, because that's like, you want to really piss me off, be the person who stands around somebody who goes like, well, I went and saw said movie. Yeah. You know why that movie sucks? Like, no, why don't you tell me, dick? But like, it's that I know that she's always kind of had this thing that did it for her, but her and her husband have really jumped in and kind of switched kind of their fellowship and all that to some degree, and they've gotten into this church, and they started this kind of broken chain style, and I think it's great. It's wonderful, because I don't believe that anybody has a monopoly on God, right? Like, there are people in the Middle East right now on the strip that they all believe in something, and whatever's happening over there is just heartbreaking on whatever end of the strip you're standing. But every time I see their video, and the reason why I like, the little thing that I do and the stuff that I'm into is that there's no faces, there's no real names, it's an experiential kind of fellowship. And like, what I see all the time on these Facebook posts is like people constantly kneeling, people constantly with their hands out. And in my mind, I'm going, I had to find a God I could do business with, and that cat doesn't need me always like falling apart about how unworthy I am. Look, I get it. Like, we started there with our kids. Like, if I couldn't, if my kid could never possibly let me down in a sense, like I could never not love, how unworthy I probably am of a love that's even greater than that. I get all that. But man, I just don't think that like the guy that I want to kick it with, that I like literally in my head, I'm like, this is like, I'm at a blackjack table and he's the dealer, like we're playing a game of one-on-one, and I just get to get all the answers. Like, who shot Tupac, bro? Like, I get to have like everything that I've ever wanted.
P. Diddy.
Careful.
Oh, look, how long we got left to tape? I mean, I just look, that's a whole, bro. But it's like, in my mind, I'm going, like I said, the hug I can give to a friend of mine, or the fact that when I'm driving down the road, I'm literally driving back home from work, and I'm going like, I wonder what Ben's doing at this very moment. Like, that is a love and a devotion and a feeling that like I don't fall to my knees about. If anything, I want to just jump out of my skin because it's just so cool. Like, I've never loved like that, and I don't know, you can call it a prejudice. I don't know. I see that and I go, man, like, this is every week. Like, y'all show back up and still got to get beat up a little bit. Like, I don't know, man.
That's one of the that's one of the hard parts for me, and that's where I think that like for me, I've tried to go into this part, because what I started to say, Jed, was that like I'm at a point where I'm wanting to explore and investigate, like through this other avenue I've had an experience with a God that I understand, and now I'm trying to have another or a deeper or a whatever experience. And so, like, there's a whole lot of stuff about the Bible and that I just don't know, that I was probably taught growing up that I wasn't soaking in because I was worried about girls and sports, and
probably taught wrong,
and could have been taught wrong, and so reading, I've mentioned on here before, reading books like The Case for Christ, trying to do things like just become more familiar with the Bible itself, because I want to know, which I'm learning is, so does everybody, and you probably never will, but like I want to know for a fact, and it's like go ahead.
C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity.
Oh, dude.
Start there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the coolest thing I think is that for the three of us and what we get to be a part of outside of any church building or any church fellowship or whatever, is like our children will get, they're going to get all of that from the community we're already a part of, whether or not, like, at least I think Julia will, because the people that come to you've talked about it before, the people that come to our house, the people that she calls her aunts and uncles, the kids that she plays with that are the kids of our closest people, like, we're all living or attempting to live the same way. And it's 7 days a week. It's not just for an hour and a half on Sunday with or without the music and the 3 to 5 points.
That is literally, so I mean, the whole church and other drugs, that was the original cause of this podcast. It was me and my buddy John, who used to be a co-host, and we both were sober in this fellowship, and we both were Christians, and we were like, dude, church could learn so much from AA, and AA could learn so much from church. And so we literally, like, that's why we started doing this, to try to like discuss that. Yeah, because it's true. It's like, really, if you like, the 12-step fellowships are just practical first century Christianity. They're just house churches in a way. And yeah, the whole 7 day, like, actively, I've had this talk with other people that kind of ask me about it, and it's the difference, I think, is that if I slack up on it, there are real physical consequences that will come, right? There's an actual risk. There's an actual danger here and now in this world. If I stop living out my faith, like, things are going to happen. Whereas other people, things might happen, but it might be, whatever. Like, not trying to sin shame, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
they might just be rude for a day.
I'll die. Yeah. Like, so there's real skin in the game. And I don't know where I was going with that, but it's that's kind of a difference. And I've always said, I do think that, I would rather have gone through the thing that I went through and be unable to live that life than live grow up, went to college, drink a case of beer a weekend, work a job, have a family, just kind of live this like medium life with zero impact on anybody else. I'm just kind of living and die. Like, and that would have just been it. It's like, I kind of rather this, it's like I wasn't allowed to live that lifestyle. Like, I tried, dude. I tried so hard. And it's like I kept getting corralled back over here. And
yeah, I couldn't make it out of 9th grade.
And it's like the degree to which I suffered was the degree to which I refused to live correctly. It's like I've been big on the why God, why? And the answer is like, because you chose to. Like, because you wanted to, man. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. Like, these things happen. Like, I love you, but I can't, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna tackle you so you don't walk out into traffic. Like, it's going to hurt when I tackle you, but like, you're going to live.
You know, I think what's so fascinating, because you brought up like C.S. Lewis and Mere Christianity, and that was a book my nephew got me for Christmas one year. He was like, he had gone to MIT, and because he's a smart little shit.
Ooh,
oh yeah,
little hunting fella.
Or Bob Lazar.
Nice.
So he got a job out in Palo Alto or whatever, and so he moves to San Francisco, and he gets some West Coast kind of like, I'm meditating now and all that, and I love this kid. He just, by the way, Damon, congratulations, he just got engaged, and I'm so proud of this kid.
Shout out,
you want to
Damon.
talk about like wild, like at one time my sister was like, don't come around my family because you're not safe around my kids, when they were like, this was almost 30 years ago, but at the time it was like, do not come around my family, like you are a danger. And like I was like, she texted me and was like, sent me all these pictures, and she was like, Damon's getting engaged. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, he told me last night. But I didn't want to tell her. But
That's
like,
awesome.
I remember he was like, I'm all into meditation now, and I know you talk about God, so I wanted to get you this book. And I was like, this is so sweet. And I read it, and I was like, man, the book knocked me off my feet, man. It was incredible. But, I think the whole point of the podcast, and of course the whole point of what me and Brandon, like we said from jump, and even this conversation is to figure out, because I don't, they say the last thing you see is your kids before because it's probably who's standing over you when whatever, 9 out of 10 times. But like, it's this circle, that, and I think I heard Russell Brand say, like, he talks about, he's like, because you're setting them up to live this life that you won't even get to experience. We'll be gone, and they'll live this whole life that you were helping build with them. And so, the whole point of this is to always find out from every person, man or woman, parent or mentor, whatever, to find out like, what if there was something we could put in the toolkit, if there was that thing, the doodads are always going to want to know, what would you do? Like, if you were sitting here talking to Jed, just say 15 years ago, 20 years ago, this scared kid, man, who's like, I don't know if there is a 25 years old. I don't know if that's like available to me, let alone be a person who's like working with, those with mental illness and psychiatric need, those who are drug dependent or alcohol dependent, and doing your best to try to give to the community, and a parent. If you could talk to that kid, what would you do? Like, what would you say that a dad needs to do? What would be your biggest like suggestion?
And like, if I was a dad to Jed 15 years ago,
yeah, man, what would you do? What would be the thing that you think is most beneficial?
A solid right hook, dude. just straight to the mouth, bro.
Of the 9 other times we've asked that question, that's by far the best answer.
Absolutely, dude. Just straight to the jaw, bro. Dude, and look, I do this for a living, and parents ask me this question. What do I do? Like, how do I prevent this? And my answer is like, you can't. Like, you don't, and you can't. Like, and that's a scary answer, right? This is kind of a separate answer, but it might be useful. So like, if I had to distill it down to like, what could you do as a parent to better the chances of your kid not going down that path? Number one, closely monitor who your kids hang out with. That's the big thing when they're in their formative years. Number two, be a safe person to be honest, to get honest with. Yeah. Like, if they cannot be afraid to be honest with you. And then number three, just like trying to keep them from experimenting with heavy things when they are young. It's like the correlation between age of first experimentation in substances and adult substance use disorder is ridiculous. It's like every year you get past where you're trying something, like the chances are better. So it's like it's really important to try to keep that early use to a minimum as you can. So what I would say to me, I guess, is go easy on yourself, like calm down, like slow down, probably calm down, slow down. And really it would be, it's like me and my buddy Brent, Brent always say, like, we retired on the front end. And so it's like, I never planned to be here now. So it's like, I would probably say, like, hey man, you're gonna live. Like, you need to live like you're gonna be alive.
Wow. Yeah. It's
it's pretty. It's good when all you can do is, we talk about that an awful lot.
Yeah.
The honest communication and it made me feel like I've got to go apologize to my 3-year-old when she wakes up in the morning.
Well, it just, I don't know. It's like I always think about that because I think of, like, I want to treat my kids as, and again, I don't want to paint this picture of my dad was this evil, terrible person, but he lacked a lot. He lacked a lot. And so, like, I want to give my kids, because if I was standing in front of 10-year-old Carl, I'd just hug him. I'd just be like, dude, you're safe. It's okay. At least one person loves you in a way that you'll never be able to understand. And so, like, yeah, man, go easy on yourself. That's, yeah.
I'd have to tell 10-year-old Brandon, get a backup plan.
Yeah, dude.
Like, hey, brother, you're not going to the league.
Jed, where do people find you at, man? Give us all your dings and your things.
Yeah. Jed.I.am on Instagram. Church and Other Drugs. That's Church & Other Drugs on everything. Spotify, podcast, Podbean. Podcast. That's not a thing. Podbean, Google, iTunes, all that good stuff. Those are the two main spots, dude.
Right on. Yeah. So if you're a doodad, if you're a dude mom, do something. If you're one of our 214 subscribers, that number might have even dropped after this episode. I don't know, but if you are, go and subscribe and like Church and Other Drugs. Go follow my buddy, man. If you're not and you kind of got on here based on somebody telling you about it, check out Official Doodads Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, the YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Like, subscribe, ding, hit the bell, the ringer. Also, go check out Dad Gang Apparel. Go on there, get you a hat. Go to the promo code, get in there, put Doodads 14721, DODADS 14721. Get you 10% off on some headgear and tell everybody about Doodads. Jed, like, what a pleasure, dude. I love you,
man.
brother.
Thank you. This was awesome.
I know. Yeah, this was super awesome. This podcast was also brought to you by Me Undies. Fine. Everything. Yeah, dude, this was very fun. It's good to. Yeah, I realize you're one of those. We've all got those people where it's like, yeah, you've seen me through some times, dude.
Yeah, man. Courtney says, what's up? She loves you and misses you.
Oh, dude, I love Courtney so much. She has also seen me in the lows, dude. Yeah, lows and the highs. I'm super, super happy for y'all, man. I'm happy for all of us, dude. We all didn't make it, so it's super cool. That's super cool. I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad you're alive. Glad we're all doing well.
For sure.
Have a good week, dude. Fellas. Yeah. Take it easy. Brother. Love you too, man.